tell the tale. I take your pick.
$100 a piece to look at a slum in a desert.
Oh, Papa, he doesn't mean it. It's just his way.
I know, but sometimes I just can't figure him out.
Is somebody going to say something? Somebody here is a murderer.
It could have been an outsider.
You don't really believe that, do you?
I'd like to believe that it was not one of us.
Now, what makes you think one of us isn't capable of murder?
It's interesting you should say that, since he was your friend, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
Well, you don't seem to be too upset over your friend's death.
Now, you back off. I don't believe I have to show you how I feel.
Maybe you do.
Bob, that kind of talk isn't going to get us anywhere.
Why doesn't he just come in and get us?
Well, he's got to be crazy. A raving lunatic. I mean, it's just not human.
I was a sailor, you know, for 40 years. Sailed the Horn 35 times. Me behind that big iron wheel, and the captain standing her face into that watery hell. That old man feared nothing. Me and the captain, we came here when they give him nary another ship. They were cruel men, thems that run the ships, company men.
Hi, this is Tracy Savage, Debbie from Friday the 13th, Part 3. For the best podcast ever on old slasher movies, be sure you find Hysteria Continues. You will be glad you did. And hey, stay out of Crystal Lake, okay?
Yes, and welcome back to the Hysteria Continues. This is episode 182, and this time we are covering Scream from 1981, not to be confused with Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson's Scream from 1996. Yes, Scream, aka Not Very Savage Water. And we are delighted, absolutely delighted to be joined by a very special guest today. Is Gareth Morgan from the Facebook group, celebrates all things slasher and slasher trash. So, Gareth, are you excited to be heading off to Ghost Town?
I'm more excited than you could ever imagine.
Well, we'll see what kind of excitement we can get from this rather, how can I put it, deliberately paced film. So let's see how excited we do get. Well, yes, possibly, yes. It's yeah, but Gareth, we're very excited to be with you. You to be with us, and you're phoning from the UK, where I used to live. So we are all coming from 4 countries. So
I find that very interesting.
Well, it's
you're in Spain right now, yeah?
Hey, are you, Gareth?
Hereford.
Hereford. Oh, okay.
So that was not too far away from where I was in Bristol, is it? Kind of
from
Lord's
50,
Knob.
Mile?
Lord Hereford's Knob, yes, yes, I'm sure Gareth knows it well.
I visit it well.
Yes. So, yes, well, if you're a super fan of the show, you'll know all about Lord Hereford's Knob. If you don't, you have to listen back and find out where we talk about it. But very excited to have you with us, Gareth. And how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on the show.
Fantastic. And Slasher Trash is going great guns, isn't it? You still enjoying putting the Facebook group together?
I am. I'm still enjoying it, just about, yeah.
Okay. And how long have you been a sort of fan of slasher movies? Because you are, if I believe correctly, a little bird told me you were born in 1981, so the same year Scream was released. Is that true?
That is very true, yeah. I think it was almost meant to be, because that's sort of my favourite year of the golden age of slasher movies as well. I think most would agree, wouldn't they, that 1981 is probably sort of the pinnacle of the slasher pantheon.
Another interesting fact, Garth and I became friends on Facebook exactly 1 year ago today. So this is his not so silver anniversary present.
So all we need now is a shadowy cowboy turn up on a horse with a dead body on the back. It's all the things are coming together. All the stars are aligning, aren't they, for an extra special show? So, but we'll talk to you a little bit later, Gareth, a bit more about your sort of love of slasher movies, and I just find it kind of interesting, especially if you were born in 1981. Obviously, that's your favourite year of slasher movies. So for a lot of us with the slasher, a lot of us kind of grew up in the heyday. We were kind of kids, kind of maybe not old enough to go and see the movies, like I certainly wasn't. But so it's always find it fascinating why people like certain years and everything. But 1981 gave us some great slasher movies, and is Scream one of them? Well, we'll find out shortly. But Erik, how are you doing?
I'm really upset, to be honest, because the people in Scream 1981, the people who were killed, they have families. They have loved ones.
Erik, how dare you? They did have families.
I am. That's what I'm saying. I'm really upset because every time someone was killed, I was thinking they have loved ones. Oh my God.
That care about them.
I would imagine their families are probably sitting at home thinking, "Oh, I'm so glad they never came home."
Seems they had no personalities.
Well, I didn't feel that much sympathy for Bob.
Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves now.
Yes, I imagine the families might have felt more upset when they saw Scream for completely different reasons. But Nathan, well, how are you doing?
I'm doing really good. Did you know that in that opening clip, the guy says they gave him nary another ship, and I thought that is like an awesome word, nary. And I don't ever get a chance to use that, but I'm like, that's a cool word. And, I live in the South, so I think I should say nary more often.
You do that?
Yes.
Yeah. I want to work it into conversations, and then once I get going with it and I get more comfortable with it, then I'll start using the word on the podcast too.
Is it a Southern word? It's not a Southern word, is it? Or is it?
Oh, is it not?
Well, I don't know.
I just saw Ghost Town, and I think of an old Texas ghost town with saloons and people in big giant dresses doing those big leg kicks and stuff while cowboys sit around and drink shots. That's what I picture.
Well, let's just let that sink in for a minute.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we're all a bit gobsmacked.
I'm glad that I can still shock you.
Yeah, well, always, Nathan. Well, thank you. Well, yes, okay. Well, we'll ponder that mental image. But Joseph, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing quite well. I've had a great week. Very busy, but great.
Joseph, have you heard of XML before?
No, what's that, Justin? What is XML? Let's talk about that.
Well, only very, very briefly. It's just if you've noticed a few ups and downs, as it were, on our feed, we've had a few problems with iTunes on desktops. If you ever tried to access the show through iTunes on desktop on a Mac or a Windows machine, you might not have been able to stream it, and it's to do, we found out that Apple are getting rid of the file format that we have released the show in for the last 9 years. Not 9 years, how many years? 8 years. And so we are in the process of trying to swap things over to try and get it back to normal. So anyway, we've had lots of exciting discussions about feeds and XML and all kind of things like that. But it's all kind of under the bonnet stuff you don't need to know about. But just so you know that we care enough to try and sort it out. So, yes, well, before we come on to Scream, let's have a little chat about what we've been watching recently. So, Gareth, as our guest of honour, have you seen anything of note you'd like to tell us about?
I actually have. I was a bit late to these bad boys, but I actually caught up with Get Out and Hereditary.
Cool. Well, what did you think? I think we've seen, I've seen both. I presume everyone else has, but what were your thoughts?
Well, with I guess you guys have all seen Hereditary, I presume.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I've not seen it yet.
Okay, well, I won't say anything too much, but basically let's just say there was a major plot point that was revealed to me before I saw it, so it kind of ruined it for me a little bit, because that probably would have been quite a shocking moment. I thought it was really good. It was actually quite scary, and a lot of the visuals in it were quite disturbing. It wasn't quite the classic it was built up to be, but very enjoyable, and pretty much the same goes for Get Out as well. I thought it was good fun. I think they injected maybe a bit more comedy into it than what they needed to, but it just so happened that the comic relief did make me laugh on several occasions. So yeah, I had a good time with both of them.
Excellent. I've seen Get Out lots of times. Actually, it's one of those kind of go-to movies when you have people around and they want to watch a movie, kind of like a fun slasher sort of action horror type sort of movie. So it's kind of, I've seen it multiple times. I've only seen Hereditary once, and that wasn't on
Get Out is a slasher.
Well, it's kind of a slasher, isn't it?
Get Out, is it?
Yeah. The last 20 minutes or so really does sort of ratchet it up. It doesn't sort of hold back with the sort of blowout finale. So yeah, I can see the links.
I'm not sure the Canadian fans would agree that it was a slasher. Let's see what they say. No, moving on.
Well, I think you've got people being menaced by people in animal masks in the house. So I think it has some slasher. Well, I think it's got more slasher credentials than maybe some of the movies we've covered.
Get Out is the one where the black guy.
We're all drunk.
Oh, hold on. I'm thinking no.
We're all drunk.
You're thinking of.
I'm thinking of the other one. You're next. Oh dear. Yeah. How embarrassing.
I love that Justin was so confused as to why Erik would not find You're Next to be a slasher.
Oh dear.
Justin Kurzweil. Justin Kurzweil, slasher movie expert.
Is it time for my nap yet?
He had white wine in his cornflakes again.
I'm drinking a whole cafetiere of green tea at the moment. So, sorry. Yes, I had a brain fart there. Yes. I haven't seen. I only saw that once as well, and I didn't think it was as good as everyone made out. But again, I think it's one of those movies that possibly suffered a little bit from the hype.
Yeah, I think they both did to a degree.
Have you seen the trailer for the? Sorry, I was going to say the trailer for the. I can't remember his name now. The guy who made Get Out, but it's Us. I think it's called Us, and it's
Jordan Peele.
Jordan Peele, that's right. And it's like a family. It looks like a kind of a family of doppelgangers kind of start to take them over.
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, it does look
really
good.
He's also remaking Candyman.
Is he? Oh,
yes.
I know that.
Without Tony Todd.
Yeah.
Candyman, bitch.
So without Tony Todd, well, I suppose.
You suppose what?
Well, no, I suppose if you it would be kind of pointless to remake Candyman with Tony Todd almost, wouldn't it? It'd be a bit redundant.
It would.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's probably a little too old for that now.
Kevin Hart, he'd be good.
Yes, Candyman. Yeah.
Willy Wonka.
He's so menacing.
He'd be like, Helen, I'm here to kill you with a hook.
So who else? Does anyone else want to chime in on Get Out or You're Next and Hereditary?
You mean Hereditary and Get Out? Justin.
I haven't seen Hereditary. Get Out I thought was okay. It was a little overrated.
I may be alone, or not alone, but in the minority, like amongst us in general. But I thought Get Out was great. I loved it.
I think it was good, yeah, but I caught up with it long after it was released. So, as Justin was saying, it was a victim of its hype, probably. It was the same with Hereditary. I saw it long after it got all these 5-star reviews from the press. And again, I thought it was good, but was a bit underwhelmed. I found it a bit grim and serious as well.
See, and Erik and I are definitely in agreement when it comes to that. Like, I think we both agree that we much prefer the movies that we can just go and have fun watching, something like Happy Death Day.
Exactly.
It's just fun. I don't, get anything else out of that except it's just a fun time at the movies. Whereas with Hereditary, I can say it's a good movie, and I'm glad I watched it, and it's very well done and well acted. But it's something that I couldn't watch again. Like it's never going to be a repeat viewing for me because it is so grim. It's a very depressing movie. It's almost like a horror drama. Because it's a very sad film as well as kind of scary at times. And like I said, that doesn't make it a bad film. It's just, for me, it's not a rewatchable film. And I much prefer my Friday the 13th with my Ethel and Juniors.
I'm not used to the acting being so good in a horror movie.
Toni Collette's just awesome. She's a great actress.
She's brilliant, yeah.
Well, Scream 1981 must have been a real treat in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's better than Axum.
Well, that's true, but then again, what isn't?
Hey, Axum has a great scene where a guy shakes his glasses in fear.
I still haven't seen it.
Have you not? Oh, well.
No, I need to get to it, which is why everybody's saying to me, I don't think Scream's the worst thing you've ever seen, when about a year ago I said up until this point it's probably the worst one. In the year since, I have seen a few which have knocked it off its perch, but I haven't seen Axum, and I hear it's terrible.
It is.
Well, we won't spoil it for you. We don't want to spoil the ending, guys.
I look forward to it.
So anything else, Gareth?
Well, I did watch Tombstone a couple of days ago because I thought it was about time I watched it, considering it came out 26 years ago.
What, the Western?
But yeah, the Western.
Okay.
But that's not horror, so I'd like to try and. Well, I guess we try and keep it within the genre.
It has a kind of. I kind of guess it has an infinity to the ghost town, the Western ghost town, doesn't it? A little.
That
bit.
must have been it. I just watched Scream again, and I just thought, oh, I'm in that vibe. So I must have just thought, let's watch Tombstone.
Well, there you go with Jason Priestley. I remember.
Yeah. I didn't spot him for ages. I was thinking I knew he was in it, and I couldn't remember who he was. And then he just sort of popped up once Billy Zane's character unfortunately passed on, and I was like, there's Jason Priestley.
Yeah, I haven't seen. I saw that at the cinema a long time ago, so I haven't seen it since. But
oh wow.
But thank you, Gareth.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Well, Erik, how about you?
Okay, well, speaking of Hereditary, there's a film kind of cut from the same cloth as that. It's an Irish horror film. It opened in the cinemas here on Friday. It's called A Hole in the Ground. And it's getting rave reviews from the Irish press, which is, probably to be expected because we can be kind of biased towards, our own product. Although it did get 4 stars in The Guardian on Friday as well, which is a UK paper. But I thought this was decent without being exceptional. The plot is that there's a woman and her son. She escapes her abusive relationship and moves to rural Ireland, and her new abode is by this forest. And just beyond the forest, there's this large sinkhole in the ground, hence the title of the movie. Her son disappears into the woods one day, and when he returns, he's not quite himself, and the mother is kind of convinced he's been replaced with a doppelganger, which is kind of like similar to Us, I suppose, the Jordan Peele movie. So as I said, it's cut from the same cloth as things like Hereditary and The Babadook, in that its approach to the subject matter can be read as it could be all in her mind. Even when sort of supernatural shenanigans are unraveling on screen, you don't know if this is just her hallucinating or if it is actually happening. Overall, I mean, it's well above average for Irish horror film standards. But again, I mean, sorry?
Is it better than Nails?
It's a lot considerably better than Nails, and has an actor in common with Nails. It's got Steve Wall, who had a minor role in Nails, and he has a minor role in this one as well. But I think if you're into things like The Witch, Babadook, Hereditary, then I think you'll probably get a lot more out of this than I did. I thought it was good, and very well, well acted, well made. And then like the final 20 minutes, there is lots of sort of horror shenanigans happening on screen. It's a very solid movie. And I'm very, I'm kind of proud that it's Irish, and I hope it does well internationally. I don't know what its release schedule is for abroad, but I suppose catch it if you can. It's not a classic. I'd be interested to see what the reviews are like from abroad, because, as I said, being Irish, we're a bit biased towards it. It's called The Hole in the Ground. I've been going to the cinema a few times recently. This is new for me because I hadn't been to the cinema since October to see the new Halloween. I also went to see Happy Death Day to You, which I know Nathan saw as well. And this picks up directly from the first one. I think it's insinuated it's 24 hours later. Is it, Nathan? It's kind of the next day.
Yeah, it is.
And what it does is it takes a peripheral character from the first one. It's Taylor is his name, isn't it? It's his roommate who keeps appearing in the first one as the day reboots. He becomes kind of a major character, certainly for the first 20 minutes of this film. And turns out that his science experiment is causing the time loop. And what happens in this one is that not only is Tree caught back in a time loop as well, but she's also sent to an alternate dimension where she is encountering the same characters again, but they all have sort of maybe different personalities and different relationships with each other. So it's very, very clever. It's much more of a comedy and more sci-fi, and the slasher element is very much in the background this time. The main thrust of the movie is she's in this alternate dimension where, and I don't know if this is a spoiler. I don't think it is, because it's revealed quite early on. Her mother is alive in this alternate dimension, where in the first film it's revealed she had died. So she doesn't know whether she wants to return to her own, dimension or not, or to stay in this one. And there's lots of quite sad moments in the film, much like in Final Girls. It's kind of. It would make you well up. And I mean, the actress playing Tree, I can't think of her name off the top of my head. She's brilliant in this film. But as I said, tonally, it's much
Jessica Roth.
Yeah, she's fantastic in the film. It's great fun. I loved it. It's probably not as good as the first one, and it's not a slasher movie in the way the first one was. This is more. It had kind of a vibe of like weird science and sort of other. It had kind of an 80s. I saw somebody review it saying it's like Revenge of the Nerds. done in a kind of a horror style. Yeah, so people who are expecting a slasher movie might be disappointed, but I thought it was just great fun, sci-fi comedy with a hint of the slasher thrown in. And it's great that it has a great sense of continuity compared to the first one because it has all the main actors back, and it's released 18 months, I think, since after the original, so they all look the same, and so it's really, and because it takes place 24 hours later, it has that kind of Halloween 1, Halloween 2 type of continuity with it, which I really liked. So big thumbs up for me for Happy Death Day to You.
Cool. I've not caught it yet. Anyone else?
Nathan?
I have, yeah. I'm totally in agreement with Erik. I think that it was a great follow-up. I think that the characters are great, and to me, it's awesome that they got back every character. I mean, even little minor ones that don't even have lines come back for this movie. Like, it's just that makes it fun for me. And like Erik was saying, it's got a lot of heart too. I mean, there's actually a couple of dramatic, scenes, but they're handled very well and they're not too heavy-handed. So it's just a great movie. It was a fun time, and I did prefer the first one because when all is said and done, I'm a slasher fan first and foremost. But in this one, the slasher element is there, but it's much more secondary this time around. Like, the identity of the killer is not really a plot point in this one. I mean, there is a whodunit, and the killer does get revealed at the end, but it's not. It's so secondary that even when the killer's revealed, I was like, oh, okay. I mean, it wasn't.
Yeah. I wasn't going, I wonder who the killer is all the way through the movie.
Yeah, me either.
I wonder if she'll go back to her own dimension, and I wonder if they'll fix the time loop and all that. That was my main concern.
That's me too. Like, it wasn't even really about the killer at all, because there is like a series of scenes where she's basically told, well, instead of waiting on this person to kill you, why don't you just like control it and kill yourself each day and restart the day? So, I mean, she commits a lot of suicides in this movie, and they're actually they're very humorous and ridiculous.
Yeah. There's a big montage of her killing herself.
Yeah, of her killing herself.
Different methods. She walks into the supermarket and drinks drain cleaner and stuff. The other thing I was going to say is that I think you definitely need to have seen the first one, because it has a kind of a Back to the Future 2 thing going on where she's revisiting scenes from the first movie, and I don't know if the film would make any sense if you hadn't seen the first one. Would you agree, Nathan?
I would definitely agree, because when she starts doing the time loop again, like, she immediately is fed up right from the get-go. Like, I don't think that you would understand it unless you'd seen the first one and you saw like that progression all the way through the part one to, when she couldn't really take it anymore, reliving that day. Like, there's a great scene. There's a character in the movie that, asks her out and stuff. Well, he's actually gay and in the closet. And when she starts reliving that time loop this time, and he pops out and he's like, hey, you never called. And she just looks at him and goes, you're gay. And walks off. Like, she's so fed up with everybody at that point in time.
Yeah, so it's a solid thumbs up, I think, from me and Nathan.
Oh, yes.
Cool. I haven't seen it, and I guess Gareth and Joseph, you haven't, either of you, yet.
No.
But there was the Natasha Lyonne, a Netflix series, Russian Doll, which kind of has a similar kind of premise, I kind of guess, but it's done. It's the one that you recommended, Joseph, which kind of has kind of sci-fi, a little bit of horror elements to it, where like a woman has to relive the same day over and over and over again, and keeps dying at the end of each day. But I really enjoyed that. So. Sorry. Is it funny?
Oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
Okay.
But it's not. It's very well done. It's clever, and it's different enough from the kind of it takes that kind of Groundhog Day via Happy Death Day to You sort of thing to a sort of different, not a different level. Not it's necessarily better, but it's different enough for it not to be kind of a slavish remake, and it's really good. And Natasha Lyonne's really kind of engaging presence, isn't she?
I thought it was sort of like, if Happy Death Day to You met up with Final Destination, because in this show, you don't know how or when she's going to die. And you're always like, uh-oh, she's about to die. She's going to fall down a sewer grate, and then she'll get hit by a car or something like that. It's just, you never expect her death, and her death is always something you don't plan on. And you think, okay, she's going to, break an arm or something silly like that. But they always surprise you with the death. So it's kind of very Final Destination-esque in that kind of way.
Is it a 30-minute show or an hour show?
It's
30 minutes. It's not 25. It's quite short.
Yeah, it's very short shows. Maybe like closer to like 40 minutes each, but there's only like 8 episodes, so it goes by quick.
I'm going to give that a go, I think.
Yeah, I think you'll like it, Erik, actually.
Did it lend itself to like a second series, or is it just did it wrap everything up in the end?
It pretty much wraps everything up, but I think there's a few loose threads that would complement a second season. So
okay,
I think they probably will do a second season, because it kind of seems to be dictated by how popular they are. So I reckon they probably will do one. But okay, well, thank you. Anything else?
It was me. No.
Yes.
That's
no.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I watched another, but I think it's going to be in your recently seen as well, so I'll hold off. Yep.
Mine.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's one you were watching, and I sort of then sorted out and watched it as well. So I'll wait till we get to you, and then I'll chime in.
We'll talk about it now, because I can't remember what that was.
Okay, it's Possession of Hannah Grace.
Okay, I couldn't remember if we talked about it last time. I couldn't remember when we'd seen it. Okay.
We did. I don't think we did. This is a film that starts off with the title character, Hannah Grace. They're trying to do a exorcism on her because she's possessed by some kind of demonic spirit. The exorcism doesn't go as planned, and she ends up having to be butchered, basically, to get rid of the evil. Her body is brought into a morgue where she sort of comes back to life and starts killing people off in the morgue one by one. And as she does, her body begins to heal itself. For me, the movie, I think you said that you found it quite mainstream, Justin. I would agree, but I thought that the mutilated corpse that comes back to life and starts stalking people around the morgue, I thought was incredibly creepy. She sort of crawls around on all fours with her bones all at different angles and stuff, and she reminded me of, I can't remember the evil woman's name in The Grudge. I keep thinking Sadako, but that's The Ring. But whatever her name is, the croaky woman.
Yes.
Don't say Toya. So, it's got a great setup and a great location. It's got that unbelievably creepy villain, the revived cadaver. Apparently the original title for the film was The Cadaver, because I suppose the possession of Hannah Grace is kind of misleading, making you think it's going to be an exorcism movie when it's not. It is more of a kind of a supernatural slasher movie, I suppose. I thought it lost its way maybe in the last 15 minutes. It rushed to its conclusion, and it sort of things that seemed impossible for characters to do early in the film suddenly seemed very easy. But apart from that, I was really impressed. It's one I hadn't heard of, to be honest. Had it got a cinema release in the States? Because it's one that was just... Yeah, you said you were watching it and you thought it was quite good, and I said, I must seek that out, and I really enjoyed it. Again, I don't
know. I don't know about here, because I've never seen it. And okay, well, I'd never actually heard of it until Justin was talking about it, so yeah, I really want to see this.
I thought it was really good. What did you think, Justin?
No, I liked it. When I said it was going to mainstream, it had that... It didn't go out on the limbs, or the wrong choice of words, but it was. I think it was kind of, it had different enough. There was, like I say, I agree. The kind of the reanimated corpse was very creepy, and I loved the stalking the corpse around of people around the morgue, this big hospital morgue. I thought it worked really well. I heard it been compared unfavourably to the autopsy of Jane Doe.
That was what I was trying to think of, yeah.
Yeah, which was apparently they were both being made around about the same time. So it sounds like the Possession of Hannah Grace has sat on the shelf for a while, unfairly, I think, because I think it was done. It was done very well. And there's a couple of really kind of creepy moments. Like there's the bit where the corpse kind of runs up the stairwell, but from kind of straight up through the gap in the stairwell, so without even going up the stairs, chasing this woman. So yeah, I think it's definitely worth a watch if you've not seen it. But I think because it starts with that exorcism, like it's almost like a parody of an exorcism, isn't it, at the beginning? But the whole exorcism thing's over and done with, and within the first 10 minutes, isn't it? And then, so it's a bit misleading, the thing, which I think possibly might explain why it hasn't, it possibly didn't find an audience, because people may have felt cheated that they weren't seeing yet another Exorcism, Emily Rose type film. But yeah, no, it's definitely worth
better
a watch.
than a possession movie, in my opinion.
Sorry?
It's better than a possession movie. If that had been a regular sort of run-of-the-mill possession movie from recent times, I would have probably not have been as invested in it. But because it turned into a supernatural slasher, I was gripped.
Yeah, excellent. It was one to hunt down. But is that one you've heard of, Gareth?
Yeah, I have, and now I'm totally excited for it, because I was exactly the same. The title itself just sort of reeked of The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and I just thought, I'll skip it. I didn't mind those films, but I'm not that bothered about the whole possession thing. I'm getting a bit tired of it. But now it sounds, I definitely want to see it. It sort of sounds right up my street. I'm scared of like the whole Grudge, weird sort of creepy corpse women and the way they move and stuff. That kind of thing is what really gets me. So thumbs up from the sounds of it.
Okay, well, let's know what you think. So excellent. Well, thank you, Eric. Yes, that was on my list and I'd forgotten about it. So Joseph, how about you? What have you been watching?
Well, I know Nathan had talked about this, and I feel like I might have as well, but I don't really quite remember, so I'm going to bring it up anyway. It's Abducted in Plain Sight. It's that sort of... I'm sorry, someone say something?
I went, ooh, because I watched this one as well, yeah.
Okay. Abducted in Plain Sight is sort of like this documentary about this family who lived next door to this very charismatic guy who basically becomes their friend, and what he's doing right under their noses, or actually right in front of their eyes, is basically sleeping with their like 9 or 11-year-old daughter. I can't quite remember how old she is, but she's a child, more or less. And what he does, he uses the parents' insecurities against them to kind of worm himself, ingratiate himself into their lives so he can have access to their daughter anytime he wants. And he basically abducts her twice in front of their very eyes. And, this is a very harrowing premise, but man alive, I had no sympathy whatsoever for the parents. The little girl I had sympathy for, obviously, for obvious reasons. But the parents are so stupid, especially the dad. I mean, he's so dumb that he's sort of become this meme now online. I don't know, you probably don't see them over in Spain or the UK or Ireland, but we have these Snickers commercials where like they get celebrities like Joe Pesci being all angry, and they're like, hey, calm down. You haven't been yourself. You need to eat something. He's like, here, have a Snickers. And they're like making like jokes about, here, you haven't been yourself. Give your neighbor a hand job. It's just, it's just all kinds of memes about it.
They did did have that advert here, but they had people like Joan Collins on it instead.
Joan Collins.
Yeah. But anyway, these parents they're so dumb and so naive that you have no sympathy for them. You obviously have sympathy for the daughter, but the whole time you're screaming at the screen. How can anyone be this ignorant? How can anyone be this blind? It's a very good movie. I think it kind of fizzles a little towards the end. I was more interested in the whole, the whole process this guy goes through to sleep with this little girl, and what happens, in that time. That was very, harrowing and, quite enthralling to watch. But I think once it gets into, how they feel about this guy and, whether or not he, he faces justice, I thought that stuff was kind of boring and it kind of dragged on a little too long. The first 45 minutes are, pretty stellar stuff. You will scream at the parents because they're so dumb. But, I enjoyed it. It's quite a good little documentary, I'd say.
Indeed, yes. Well, I've seen it as well, and not much more to add than that, apart from there's quite a few twists and turns in it, which makes a quite interesting viewing, to say the least.
And spaceships.
Sorry?
And spaceships. And aliens and stuff.
Was there?
Yeah, well, yeah. You remember the whole spaceship thing?
Yeah.
And aliens?
Yeah, he convinces the little girl that they're on a mission. To help out some aliens. Yeah,
and she was going to kill her little sister, wasn't she? Because she thought if she didn't do that, then the aliens would kill her or something. Yes. So, Gareth, if you had the pleasure.
No, I haven't. But again, sounds like one I should get on to.
Exactly. No, I think so. It's kind of, it's so we don't give too much away. But, well, thank you, Joseph. Anything else?
Not that just the Russian doll. I think that's about it.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, Nathan, have you been watching anything apart from Drag Race?
Oh, man! I have been watching Drag Race.
Oh, bye!
It's not starting here. It's not starting here until next week. It's really annoying.
Oh,
on
okay.
Netflix.
Then I can't. I'm not saying anything.
Oh, sorry. It's on Netflix. It is on Netflix Spain, but it says new episode on the 7th of March. So I checked and it hasn't started for whatever reason. I don't know, which is a bit annoying. So
I wanted to ask your opinion on somebody's dress that they made, and it was absolutely horrendous.
Well, unfortunately, I haven't seen it yet. I might have to look for alternative means, but so maybe we'll chat about it next time. But a little shout out to Eric's co-worker. Is it
Neve?
Yeah. Hello, Neve. Thank you for listening.
Oh yes, she thinks your voice.
Yeah, because she likes your voice.
Yeah, she likes your voice too, Nate.
Baby, she loves.
She likes Justin's voice because it's all suave and charismatic. She likes my voice because of y'all and my goofy countryness. Y'all's time.
She fell in love with Justin first when I showed her that the iconic picture of Justin in the graveyard flicking his hair.
Oh, that picture is amazing.
It is.
Why don't you do that anymore, Justin?
Well, I've only got a quiff now, so it wouldn't flop around too much.
Let it grow out.
What's funny is that Erik actually had that picture in his wallet. He had like wallet size made.
So
I just picture back then, Justin, that you did a lot of hair flips.
Well, to be honest, it was always quite stiff. The hair. So, Nathan, what else have you been watching?
Okay, so I've watched two things. One thing I watched, and I would like to cover it for the podcast soon. I might pick it, pretty soon. But I watched Cherry Falls.
I was thinking about.
I
thought about that the other day. Cherry Falls. I thought it'd be a good one for the podcast.
Yeah, it was so much fun rewatching it, and to me, at the end when the killer's revealed, I'm not spoiling anything, but the killer, to me, their like over the topness at the end reminds me of one of our favorite killers from Urban Legend. Like just how the acting just goes like completely over the top, and the killer gets all boss-eyed and stuff. I'm like, it's so much fun. But it has like really good chase scenes and stuff like that in it. The chase scene in the school was amazing. Like I love the scene where Brittany Murphy's running and the killer is behind her, and the killer is fast and running and catching up with her quickly. And I'm like, to me, that would be a pretty terrifying moment to have somebody chasing you that's faster than you. So I'm like, that was pretty cool. But it's a great movie. I'm not going to say too much because I do want to pick it for one of the podcast episodes. But it's just a lot of fun. I think it's one of the more underrated movies from that time frame.
And
I haven't seen it since it came out. I remember the conceit not being, up to what it should be, but it sounds like one I need to revisit. I might, find a better appreciation for it.
I think you will now.
And obviously it has a connection with the Joseph's Patreon pick for this month.
Oh, yes, it does, doesn't it? That's right.
So, okay.
Wasn't it the most expensive television movie ever produced? Because it was originally meant to go get a theatrical release, and then they decided to dump it to television or something in America.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. They cut out a lot of stuff too, like a lot of scenes, and they have not re-released it with all those scenes put back in. They've never done that.
It was released to the USA Network here in the States.
Yeah.
It did at the same time as one of my favorite anthologies, Terror Tract.
It did get a cinema release in UK because I remember seeing it in the cinema.
It did, yeah.
Yeah, so and I used to have the quad poster for it, but really annoyingly, even though it got released here as either a 15 or an 18, I'm not sure, but it was released with the American TV cut, so which was very frustrating.
It needs an update. It needs a Blu-ray release with all of the uncut footage.
Yeah, wasn't it put out by Scream Factory, wasn't it? Yeah,
put it out, but I'm not sure how comprehensive the extras are on it, though.
I don't think they had the footage. I don't know if it's been lost. But
do you know what? Now you said that, I think I did hear something about that because everybody was so disappointed because it got announced and then, they found out that they lost the footage. Yeah, that sounds right.
Oh, that is a bummer. I'm like, that's footage that they should have kept.
Yeah, because they've just done that of Urban Legend, haven't they? Because Jamie Blanks contributed to it and they managed to include a whole bunch of sort of uncut. Oh no, sorry, not Urban Legend. Valentine. Valentine. Apparently, they included a lot of sort of the uncut stuff that wasn't allowed. Warner Brothers made them take out of the film. So apparently, the Scream Factory release of that does include a whole bunch of unseen gore footage, which is good.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, I read on Twitter that apparently or it may have been in the forums. I think it might have been the forums. I don't remember, but someone said that the footage they reinserted back into Valentine was nothing to get in a twist over. Like they hyped it up, and then it's just like, oh, that's it. I haven't seen it yet, so I can't really comment, but that's what I've heard.
You just crapped on my cupcake.
Sorry.
I've got it at home. It's still sealed. I haven't watched it yet, but I will. I've seen the movie before, but I just haven't looked at the extras and stuff. So
yeah, well, let us know. We'll write up on Slasher Trash because I'd be interested to know. I haven't got it yet, but it's another one I saw at the cinema, and I remember two other people in the cinema. It was kind of like the last of the late 90s, although it wasn't. It was a 2000s kind of slasher, but it was the last hooray, wasn't it, of the films that started with the Scream. And I Know What You Did Last Summer. So cool. Okay, well, Nathan, is anything else?
Yes, I watched a new one called Pledge. It's about these guys who are kind of losers in college, and they end up going to this party at this frat house, and like they have a great time, and then the frat's like, well, maybe you guys should pledge. So they come back like the next night to go through Hell Week. And it turns out that this frat is ran by psychopaths who more so just want to torture people. So like they brand them and stuff like that. And so they're putting them through like some crazy stuff, and there's some twists in it as to why all this is going on and why they're doing this. And it's got one scene where they like tie one of the guys down and they put like a mouse in a bucket, and of course they hold like a blowtorch to one end of the bucket, so the mouse eats his way into the guy, which is a pretty torturous scene. But it's not it's not like a Saw movie. It's not like a torture movie. There's a lot of like cat and mouse as the remaining guys try to get away and stuff. And I will say that I did not see. I mean, not that it's a twist, but I didn't see where the movie was going to end up going at the very end. And I thought that was cool. And the movie's only like 77 or 78 minutes long, so it never overstays its welcome. It's a pretty quick watch. I would recommend it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I'm, just trying to watch them get away and deal with these psycho frat guys.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I've not heard. It's not one I've heard of, but yeah, is that a kind of a straight to video type thing?
Yeah, it was, but to me, it's definitely one of the better straight to video movies that I've seen. The production values are actually pretty good.
Cool, excellent. Well, thank you, Nathan. Is there anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, well, thank you. I'll just rattle through a couple. I caught up with Hellfest, and I can't remember. Did I talk about that last time? I can't remember.
No, I did, I think, but yeah.
Okay. No, I won't say add much more. I kind of enjoyed it, but I can see why perhaps it wasn't kind of embraced quite as fully as it might have been. It was a little bit underwhelming and a bit forgettable and a bit meandering, I kind of guess. It felt like it was kind of one note throughout the whole movie. It didn't really kind of get to a crescendo. And I think sort of Tony Todd was a bit wasted as well because it was just more of a cameo than anything. Is that kind of what you said, Erik?
No, I really liked it.
Oh, okay.
I was
Me
pleasantly
too.
surprised because I thought it was going to be kind of a torture porn type movie. I don't know why I thought that. I thought it was going to be kind of a Rob Zombie gore fest, which I didn't want, and I was surprised when it was more popcorny and commercial, which I really liked.
I mean, I enjoyed it well enough, but I just think it felt like it just didn't. It just basically it didn't build up to anything. It just kept on going on the same note throughout the whole film. But there you go. Have you seen it, Gareth?
Gareth, yeah.
I loved it. In fact, it's strange how I just forgot to mention it because I saw it about 10 days ago. I actually paid to rent it because it got a very limited release in this country from what I gather. I'd been told it was really, really soft. So I was expecting a real PG-13 vibe, but there are a couple of really gory kills. So I was pleasantly surprised. And yeah, and I think it had been built up to be a bit of a damp squib. So I enjoyed it for what it was.
Okay, I may have caught it on the sometimes you can watch films if you're not quite in the mood for them, so maybe I'll give it another go.
Because I mean, I kind of agree with them. I watched it too, and I thought it was like awesome.
Okay, well I stand alone. What about you, Joseph? Have you seen it yet?
Yeah, I have seen it. This is a movie I actually don't really remember much about. I seem like I liked it, but like you, Justin, it just didn't really engage with me. It's probably one I need to rewatch.
Cool. Okay. Well, yeah, I'll probably need to rewatch that. The only other film I introduced some friends to Frightmare from 1974, which was always a lot of fun. But another film I caught up on Netflix, which wasn't a really horror movie. It's got like kind of slight horror movie undertones or overtones. Was the new movie Serenity with Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway. Which I kind of regret watching, really, because it had a...
All right.
It had a kind of initially intriguing premise that Matthew McConaughey, it's kind of done very much like a modern film noir with everything slightly overacted about Matthew McConaughey sort of running fishing tours in this kind of Caribbean island somewhere which isn't ever said exactly where it is, or somewhere off the Florida Keys. And then his ex-wife, Anne Hathaway, turns up and she wants him to kill her husband who's been beating her up and tormenting his son. And it goes off, you can tell there's something off in it, and I won't give away what that is, but it's very silly. It gets increasingly more silly, which could be a good thing, and often is a good thing when a movie gets silly, because there's no such thing as the only bad thing about movies is when they're boring. But this is Matthew McConaughey is quite annoying in this, and I've forgotten actually how annoying he can be. And also the actual premise, when you actually find out exactly what's going on, is bizarre and very silly and didn't make a lot of sense. And I found him and Anne Hathaway quite irritating. So maybe not a good couple of weeks for me with movies, unfortunately, apart from Frightmare. And who can go wrong with Sheila Keefe? Sorry?
I was just going to say, a very underrated Matthew McConaughey film, and I wouldn't really even call it a Matthew McConaughey film. Gareth might agree with me here since we've been talking about Bill Paxton, but it's Frailty. Has anyone seen that?
A long time ago.
Yeah.
That's such a good movie. He's really good in that film, I think. And Justin, he can be annoying, but he's really good in that. It's a very underrated horror film if you've not seen that.
Well, I agree. Yeah, I mean, this Serenity is almost like a not a sequel, but almost it's spiritually a kind of a follow-on or a sequel to that one he made with Anne Hathaway, and I can't remember that one about what's the big budget one that was
Interstellar.
Interstellar, that was the one, which again I found quite irritating as well.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, so
I like the premise of that film, but it's just entirely too long. It could have been shortened by about 45 minutes easily.
Well, talking of films that could be shortened by at least 45 minutes, maybe it's time to move on to the main feature. So, without further ado, get that coffee boiling because it's time for Scream.
A group of friends decide to take a rafting trip down the Rio Grande in West Texas. After a long day on the rapids, they come upon a quaint, deserted little town, a place that would be nice to spend the night. As evening descends, 3 of the campers are murdered in bizarre fashion. The next morning, the others awake to find their rafts destroyed, trapped in a ghost town at the mercy of a psychotic maniac. The killer strikes and strikes again, each time leaving no clues. Not even a footprint. The terror must come to an end. But just how do they stop a killer they can't see? When you're murdered in a ghost town, no one can hear you scream. Okay, let's get one thing straight right now. Scream is not a good movie. If you're looking for spills or thrills, I would suggest you look elsewhere. Stellar characterization, to hell with that bullshit. Scream doesn't have time for that. In fact, aside from names thrown about at random, you'd be hard-pressed to remember who anyone is, except maybe for Bob or Lou, and only Lou because he's fat and only Bob because he's an asshole. Let alone what kind of person they are. So I think Scream defines that sort of fix it and post adage. 80 to 90% of the film's audio is done in post-production, it seems, and there's little to no plot structure. Are there any thrills? No, nonsense. The movie kind of creeps along, sort of like molasses on flypaper. Are there any gory kills? No, let's just say Tom Savini can rest easy. The unseen killer, he's revealed to be and this is spoilers, revealed to be the ghost of an old sea captain. And I'm not making this up. I think the killer, he generates no real sense of fear. I mean, we don't see him, and that's not necessarily bad in and of itself, but we get no idea as to who or what this thing is that's killing these people off. So I wasn't really terrified by the killer. And, additionally, characters kind of stare off into space. They never really know what to say, how to react to their situation, or, I don't think they even remotely resemble anything other than cardboard for the running time, until the film finally and mercifully ends on a shot of an oil painting. I mean, this is exciting stuff, right? I can't recommend Scream, and not to anyone looking for suspense or any semblance of proper pacing. But that being said, I actually enjoy Scream as this this weird sort of anomaly. It has wonderful atmosphere, and it has kind of a sense of otherworldly uneasiness about it that's pretty undeniable in the face of all of its problems. I mean, it has amazing bones, but I think the body has seen much better days, if I'm honest. I mean, you can just imagine what could have been done with the film's ghost town setting. Someone, I don't remember who, but I feel like I'll be reminded when we get to the feedback portion. They likened it to The Final Terror, which is another film that kind of basks in that in its atmosphere, but doesn't know exactly how to dispense of its characters. I think I would agree with that. The Final Terror is obviously better than Scream in just about every way imaginable, but I definitely see the similarities. Overall, though, while I would tell anyone looking for standard set pieces and a sense of fun, I would tell them to look elsewhere. I would also, in turn, sort of recommend the film as this kind of like a strange study in an idea or a filmmaking process. It kind of claws its way into your psyche against all odds. Is that a thumbs up or a thumbs down? I honestly don't know. But for now, let's turn it over to our special guest, Gareth.
Well, thank you for that. You may, I agree with you. It's one of those ones. I don't know if you can give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. When I first watched it about a year ago, it was a huge thumbs down for me. As I said before, I think I went on to say it was the worst slasher that I had seen, sort of worst 80s slasher at that point. That's no longer the case. I have seen worse. I caught up with it again early on in the week, and I can see what you're saying with regards. It does have this sort of ability to sink into your psyche, and you find yourself thinking about it, and oh, that bit was actually okay. And it does have its moments. It's by no means a good film in any way, shape, or form, but there's something there. There's something there.
What are the films that you saw that are worse than Scream?
I'm currently using Boarding House as the
Nathan.
Boarding House. It's so good.
It's amazing. It's so awful.
I loved the music. I thought when it started and it had that sort of like rip-off sort of Halloween sort of theme, I thought, oh, this is going to be great. And again, like as Justin was saying earlier, it might have been to do with the mood I was in at the time. Maybe I was just moving something completely different. But I just found the whole experience just so like mind-numbingly. It was just jarring. I hated the lead character, the sort of like Lothario guy, always running around with his top off. It just grated on me, and I every time somebody said to me, "What's the worst one you've seen? What's the worst one you've seen?" I just found myself bored, and House just kept popping up into my head.
That's where the rent won't kill you, but something else will.
Yeah, did you watch the extended 3-hour director's cut?
Yes, I've watched it. I've watched the whole director's cut. It's over 2 hours long, but like it's so much fun. Like even just watching the dialogue scenes.
Wait a minute. Have we already covered Boarding House? We're sitting here talking about Boarding House now.
Yeah, but I don't know that we talked about the uncut version.
Okay. Well, since you're embroiled in this sort of background thing going on with Scream, Nathan, what are your thoughts on Scream?
I absolutely love Scream. Now, when I first watched it, I didn't. I kind of felt the way, that probably a lot of people feel about Scream, is that I think it had a great location. It had so much going for it, but it didn't live up to its potential. And I mean, that's probably the case. But to me, I just realized that all of the positive aspects way outweigh the negatives for me. I love the wall of weapons. And I love the scene where, the one woman is kind of humming like a lullaby, and then it cuts to the weapons on the wall, and then there's that big like meat cleaver dripping blood. I thought that was very atmospheric. It was very cool. I feel that the setting is amazing. I would love to see an actual Friday the 13th style slasher at a ghost town. I think that would be a lot of fun. But Scream, I love the scene with Lou in the barn too. I thought that was actually a really creepy scene where he's alone in that I want to say barn, but building of some sort. I thought that was an awesome moment. I think Scream gets a little confusing because, like Joe was saying about the killer, you don't really ever see the killer. I guess we're to assume that oil painting at the end is what the killer looked like. And it was the ghost of that captain killing them, but I don't know why. I'm not sure. I guess he just didn't like trespassers or something. But he was a sea captain, and this is like a ghost town. So I'm like, was his big big boat on the river that they were on, and he made a pit stop by that ghost town too, and maybe that's where he died? I don't know. It's all very confusing.
The Charlie Winters character, played by Woody Strode, the ghostly cowboy who wanders into the town, I think he kind of insinuates that the captain was this fearless guy who basically crashed a ship, and they gave him no more ships, and he ended up in this town, and he probably died, and he was pissed off, so he just had a lot of pent up aggression there.
Okay, well, I mean, that could be it. I love the opening too. The butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker, and the butcher is kind of decapitated the two figurines, and then it plays this really creepy music, and then it's like bam, and it has Scream written across the screen. That's just really cool. So I think there's a lot going for this movie, and I really enjoy it now. I can't tell you how many times I've seen it. I've watched it a lot. Just because I don't know. I just always find new stuff I like about it every time I watch it. So
I imagine you get your full 8 hours a night, don't you?
What?
Oh, Nathan.
8 hours.
Sleep.
Is that
8 hours of sleep?
Yeah, but what does that have to do with Scream?
You watch it all the time. You probably get your full 8 hours. Oh, fucking forget it. Goddamn.
Because it's so boring, it sends you to sleep, Nathan.
Oh. Well, I mean, I did used to watch it and fall asleep to it. I did used to do that.
Hard sleep.
So it acts like a lullaby for you then?
Yes, there was a set amount of movies I used to do that with. So Scream is one of them. And it's not because I find it boring. I just love the music and stuff. It was just very peaceful going to sleep to I guess people getting hacked up with meat cleavers. That kind of makes me sound psychotic. Well, I'm not crazy. I'm not.
Are you sure?
Right, Nathan? Right, you are. See, I agree.
I'm probably not as enamored with it as Nathan, but I do think it has so much going for it, despite all of its little problems, and there are a lot of problems that, like I said, it just really sticks with you for some reason.
And to me, like this, it has one scene where, to me, it's one of those moments where, how could this character be so stupid? Where the one guy is like going to go get a beer or something, and they already know that there's a killer in this ghost town, and they're all sticking together in this saloon area. And he's like, going to go get a beer, and one of the women's like, "You sure you should go alone?" And he's like, "Oh, I'll be fine." And then he goes and gets killed. I'm like, why? I mean, to me, I don't think I would want a beer anyway. And if I did, I would be like, hey, Erik, Justin, Joseph, Gareth, and the other 50 people that are in this saloon, walk with me over here to get a beer, and then we'll walk back.
What happens if you really needed to see a picture of Elijah Wood, but they were all stored over across the road? Would you venture across to pick them up?
Well, only if you all go with me.
Okay.
I need escorts, and also I want to be in the middle. Like, I need a few of you in the front, a few of you in the back, and a few on the sides, and I'll be in the very middle. That way, if the killer shows up swinging a big scythe, I'll be like Lou, and I won't get killed.
He could be operating a drone to try and attack the people in the middle, though.
Oh man, there's no escape.
You have a scythe attached to a drone. Yeah.
So I guess I won't be looking at pictures of Elijah Wood. But
sounds like a bad sort of slasher movie sitcom. Nathan in the middle.
The meat in the sandwich.
Yeah. A Nathan Oreo. That puts me off my line.
Oh God.
A Nathan spit roast.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm going to get us back on track by saying that Scream is really good.
Okay. Well, Erik, what did you think of Scream?
Okay, well, I can completely see how this film divides opinion, because let's just face it, it's a slow film where any kind of moment of incident is really clumsily handled. Everything, any kind of, quote, action almost happens off screen. But for me, I mean, as you were saying, Joseph, it has a certain charm. It's cut from the same cloth for me as things like Class Reunion Massacre, Skullduggery, which I loved, and Day of Judgment. That type of film where you almost feel like, as you said, they were hoping to fix things in post, and then when they got to the editing suite, they realized there was tons of footage missing, or things just didn't coalesce for them the way they'd hoped, and they just put together whatever they could and hoped that it made sense. There is that unsettling ambience right from the start with the porcelain figurines, and I love the theme music that accompanies the characters as they raft up, the river. It's kind of hilariously off-brand. It sounds like a daytime talk show or something. It sounds like the music.
That's what I was going to say.
I do love those. Those glorious rural landscapes are great, and the ghost towns is equally atmospheric. And I think, as Nathan said, this would be a better film to be made from the locations they've chosen, because for the film, for the first 15 minutes or so, it's quite interesting. Is that the right word? But look, it looks like for the first maybe 10 minutes, it looks like it's going to be a decent enough film. But then it goes into this sort of limbo fever dream type vibe where things just happen randomly and for no reason. And I love the way the characters, anytime, when the motorcyclists come in, when the two motorcyclists come in, and when Woody Strode comes in, the people just stand there staring at each other, and it's sort of a Mexican standoff for about a minute before anyone says anything. It gives me the impression that it's almost, as I said, it's like a fever dream. And one of my interpretations of the movie is, do you remember there was a spate of films in the noughties where the twist at the end was they died at the start of the film, and the rest of the events were them in limbo or on their way to the afterlife or something? That's what I thought this film was trying to do, maybe, because I can't really make sense of what the conclusion is. And I'm not 100% sure why people would want to go on vacation to this ghost town. I mean, it's insinuated they paid $100 each, which was probably a lot in 1981. And for that privilege, they're sleeping on hard wooden floors in this abandoned town. And I don't know why they keep the beer in a separate building, when obviously there's no electricity. So it's obviously there's no fridge over there. And I mean, there's, as I said, there's a decent movie to be made on that location, but it would have helped if they'd had something resembling a script. The weird atmospherics are fantastic, but for me, it's not enough to sustain 81 minutes. I wouldn't be watching this hundreds and hundreds of times like Nathan, because it's filled with anonymous characters, as you said, that you barely know who's who or what their names are. They sit around and eat a lot as well, I noticed. There's lots of scenes of people standing outside on their own, like maybe smoking a cigarette, having a beer, eating some takeaway or whatever they have. But there's not a lot of action happening. And when the slasher action does happen, as I said, a lot of it is just off screen, or you can't really make out what's going on. But that's kind of what I like about it. I like this sort of this ponderous, weird vibe it gives off. But as I said, it's not one I would watch recurrently, whereas Class Reunion Massacre, which has a similar atmosphere, is one I can watch on a loop because I love that film. This one, no, I'm afraid not. It's a bit too sedate for me. But I do agree that it has a unique atmosphere. So It's not, definitely not the worst film we've ever covered, though. Definitely not.
No, not by a long shot.
Not even in the bottom 10. No.
All right, Justin, you gave this film originally 1 star on Hysteria Lives. I'm interested to see if you've changed your opinion.
Possibly slightly. I mean, I think the same criticisms remain in so much it's not. If you were going to say to somebody, can you tell me a really good early 80s slasher movie? It would never be Scream. It has a lot going for it in so much I kind of appreciate it a bit more now. I don't, when we get to the background, I mean, I don't think the director actually knew what he was doing really with the film, both making it and actually what kind of story he was trying to tell, because it's all over the place. It's got like weird touches. I mean, things that I appreciate about it, and one of the things from the background was the director was saying that he was actually more interested in making a European style art house horror movie than an American style horror movie, which seems strange given that he was trying to make a cash in on the slasher craze, to go that route with it. But there's certain like kind of weird touches I liked. I mean, like the fact it's probably the only film that's got a ghostly slasher who smokes cigarettes, which is bizarre. And also it's possibly one of the only slasher movies that only kills middle-aged men. The only other one I could really think of was a film like Rituals, which obviously predates the kind of slasher movie craze. Another film it reminded me of was a very obscure 1963 kind of semi-proto slasher called Terrified, which had a hooded killer killing teens at a ghost town. And I did wonder if this might have been a little bit of a kind of a nod to that. It's all sorts of weird things. I mean, it also reminds me more. It's got more in common with films like Messiah of Evil and Carnival of Souls. That kind of weird feel, almost like Twilight Zone thing that you feel. Like Erik said, that these characters have come together. It's almost as if they've all drowned on the Rio Grande where they was, and this is all in some kind of weird limbo. Because these characters just arrive, like the motorcyclists come and they can't find their way out, and you got this ghostly cowboy turning up Woody Strode. It's as if they've stumbled into some kind of alternative reality or sort of some state of limbo, which in itself could have been interesting, but it doesn't work as a slasher movie because you've got very perfunctory scenes of the murders with no real build-up. It does have some creepy scenes, like Nathan was mentioning about when Lou goes in and sees the body moving inside one of the rooms where they stored one of the bodies. But that's just obviously a direct lift, I kind of guess, from John Carpenter's The Fog. And the director kind of said that he was a fan of John Carpenter, so I imagine that's kind of where he lifted that sort of directly. It's got a kind of weird hypnotic feel to it, and so in the right mood, then it's a worth a watch. But it's certainly not it's very unfocused, and I think its dreamlike nature is more to do with the fact it's not a very well made film than any real skill behind the camera. I think you could read too much into it, and I think given the original title, I think was Butcher Baker Candlestick Maker, and obviously the opening scene with the those broken figurines, it almost as if they started making one movie and then sort of veered off into another, and it's not a good movie, but if you're in the right frame of mind, it's certainly, and you're a slasher completist, then it's certainly one to watch. It's a notable failure, but it's not one that I would return to very often.
Interesting. So as far as characterization, I felt like, we sort of got to know Bob, because he's this kind of outspoken, just this jerk. Everyone else is so, monotone and just kind of in the background. You don't really know their names, except maybe Lou, and only Lou because he's kind of this comical, fat guy, buffoon, kind of put upon guy. Everyone else, if I looked at them in a lineup, I couldn't tell you their names at all. It's very weird in that way where you don't really sympathize with the characters, but yet at the same time, you're so enthralled in this kind of fever dream, aesthetic that you don't really care as such. In a way, in any other film, you would be like, okay, this sucks because, why am I supposed to care for these characters if I don't even know their names? But here, it kind of works. It's like you're having the dream and you're just with these people that you don't know, and then the dream ends. So it's kind of unusual in that kind of way.
Yeah, well, one of the other character names I did pick up on was Ross. He was the nice, chunky, middle-aged man with the beard. And
of course you picked up on his name.
His name was Ross, but he's killed off quite early on because, he knowing there's a killer on the loose, he desperately needs a beer, so he has to venture out on his own to get one. So he's obviously subscribing to the Justin Kurzweil school of priorities there.
Well, needs must.
Yeah.
But one thing I didn't... sorry.
Justin, do you keep your wine cabinet in a different...
No, I live in a very small place at the moment, so there's always a bottle nearby. I'd never leave it in an outhouse in the next to the graveyard or anything like that. That'd be foolish. But one thing I did notice, and I didn't quite get, is that the first person killed is hung, aren't they? They're found hanged. And so they immediately what? No, but they immediately decide there's a killer on the loose.
How do you know that? His trousers didn't come off.
No, but they find his body's found hung, as it were, but they immediately decide there's a killer on the loose. So why didn't they think he'd hung himself?
True.
Point.
It was Papa who was hung, wasn't it? The old man. The old man.
Well, allegedly.
Yeah. He just seemed so kind of, positive. Maybe they thought, he would never do that. He'd never kill himself. I don't know.
Well, I think the way it starts, because it reminds me, of course, of Savage Water I mentioned at the beginning with like the whole Rio Grande thing, and it was kind of, again, I very much doubt that Byron Quisenberry had seen Savage Water, because I don't think anyone else had, until many years later. But is, when they do, it starts with that very kind of really beyond elevator music, or beyond beneath elevator music kind of opening soundtrack, and all these kind of disembodied voices just sort of talking in a sort of slightly like they didn't really know what they're doing, the sound, but then with the Lou like huffing up the hill, I thought, looking back, I was thinking, you can actually think this could be like a fun, it's going to be a bit of a fun time, like Night of the Demon or something, have a bit of, pep to it, but that wasn't really what they were going for. And I was just thinking how much fun this movie could have been if you actually it was a whodunit and it was somebody killing off this group in a ghost town, and it was made in 1981. It would be like potentially like a mini classic, or at least a House of Death style regional horror movie. But as it is, it's one of a kind, so it has that going for it, I guess.
Anyone else got anything else to say about it?
Yeah, more just expanding on what you guys were saying. I mean, I've watched it twice now, and okay, I can be accused quite often of struggling to pay attention. And there's certain movies that I call like phone grabbers, where you try so hard to pay attention, but if you find yourself reaching for your phone and becoming distracted, you sort of know that it's it's a bit slow, a little bit boring. With these characters, as you guys were all saying, there's just too many of them. It's character overkill. I've watched it twice now, and I think the first 3 kills, I think I still struggle to sort of understand which person it was who got killed. The names of each person, when I said the only guy I really sort of noticed, like you said, the arsehole guy and the chubby guy, everybody else just kind of all blends in. I mean, the women, I think there's like 3 or 4 of them. I mean, I don't even know if they even really have any lines. And then there's one moment, I think probably towards the last 20 minutes, where it seems as though one of the guys has sort of returned. He's been attacked. They open the door, they're scared. And it's, it's you're okay. And I'm like, who is that guy? I didn't even know who he was. So maybe I was just, I don't know, looking at my phone for too long, but I struggle to identify with any of the characters because you just don't know who they are.
No, this is the definite. This is the definition of a phone grabber. I mean, I after 20 minutes of serious concentration, I just couldn't resist the phone, the iPad, anything to distract me.
Yeah,
just so somnambulistic. There's a big word.
There's a big word.
It is. But it does have, I suppose, they may be off screen, but one thing you can't say about it is it's light on the kills. I suppose there is that. It does rack up a reasonable body count.
Yeah, but
I thought the body count could have been higher considering how many people survived.
Well, yeah, it should have been. It should have been all of them.
But it doesn't feel like there's a big body count.
It doesn't. No.
Because just everything's off screen and it's characters, as you said, you don't even know their names, who they are. Yeah.
But as Nathan was saying, I remember when I first watched it, I do like the opening. I did think that, the ominous music and the way the camera's panning across to the figurines, I thought that was quite a nice touch. And like you said, when the title card comes up, I thought, okay, we could be in for something quite good. And I do like the very ending then as well, when it's, I say revealed that, as the camera sort of pans up to the big portrait of the sea captain, and you sort of realize that it's a ghost, more than likely a ghost, committing all the killings. I do like that. It's a nice touch. Like the bookends are really, really, I think quite clever, quite, well shot. But what's in between, I don't know. Yeah, it's almost like half a film. They never got around to sort of finishing it. And like you said, they got into the editing suite and sort of thought, we haven't really got enough meat on the bones here. It'll have to do.
Yeah, it does. I agree with Justin. I think its ambience is purely accidental.
Yeah.
You just get that.
I would say that as well. Yeah, it's kind of like lightning in a bottle. It's kind of that they captured, what little of the good stuff that they did, and that good stuff is really good. So it's kind of accidental.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Background. Yeah. I have quite a lot here, but what about our guest? Do you have any background information?
No.
Nathan.
You're supposed to do a Nathan style. No.
It's funny because when I talk about these shows, I listen to quite a lot on the drive to my girlfriend. She lives like 40 miles away. I listen to quite a lot, and I was telling a friend, I said it cracks me up because everybody's got loads of background, and it gets to Nathan's like, no. And I just think that's so funny because normally that's not like me. I'm sort of like the nerdy guy who studies and reads up about the background and the production, but I got nothing on this one, guys. I got nothing.
That's okay.
That's okay. Nathan, do you have any background?
No.
All right. Well, I know Justin and Erik typically have a lot, so I'll just rattle through this. Maybe I can be first for a change. I've not listened to the commentary by Byron Quisenberry. I think it was on the Shriek Show DVD. Is that right?
I think so, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he might have covered some of this that I found, but apparently Scream was released in January of 1981 and filmed in May of 1980, but it kind of has that filmed in 1981 flair to me, at least. So I'm not 100% sure if those dates are accurate. Maybe Justin knows more about that. The working title, as Justin said, was Butcher Baker Candlestick Maker, which kind of ties in with that film's strange opening scene. It was actually filmed. That scene was filmed in Byron Quisenberry's apartment. Of course, it's well known. AKA would be The Outing, which I think is what Justin reviewed it under way back when. It was filmed in Lake Peru, California, as well as the Agora, California Paramount Ranch, which up until recently was open to the public, but it burned to the ground. Shot in 11 days in sequence with director Byron Quisenberry apparently withholding the ending of the script from his actors, most likely because he didn't have an ending in mind.
Yeah.
In an earlier draft of the script, the two motorcyclists, they were supposed to arrive in dune buggies, apparently. Let's see. Pepper Martin, who plays Bob, he's probably the only character with a discernible personality, like I said. He gets top billing for that reason, I'd say. He may best be remembered as the truck driver who beats up a powerless Superman in Superman 2. And I think Superman at one point calls him garbage. So that's interesting. He also had a storied wrestling career in the 1950s and the 1960s. He was actually one of the top earners in the wrestling circuit before he, pursued an acting career in the 70s. Ethan Wayne, who plays Stan, again, I don't remember who that is. It could be any one of them. He's the son of the legendary Western star John Wayne. The film's composer, Joseph Conlon, he went on to have an extremely diverse resume. He scored the Toolbox Murders remake. He did the TV movie sequel to The Stepford Wives called The Stepford Children, The Concrete Jungle, and more TV shows and TV movies than I've probably had hot dinners. So, I mean, this guy's done a lot of work. Quisenberry, director Byron Quisenberry, he passed away back in August of 2017. He had a huge career as a Hollywood stuntman. He worked on a lot of great films, like Soul Survivor, which we covered on Patreon not too long ago. He was stunt work on Return of the Living Dead, in one of Justin's favorites, Miracle Mile, which is a good movie, and the not so excellent but still fun Mannequin 2 On the Move. He also he also doubled for Joe Lane, who played Lou during the spider scene in this film, because apparently Joe Lane was terrified of spiders, and I don't blame him. I think that's all I have, so I'll let Erik and Justin fight over who's next.
Okay, I only have a small bit to add to that because you have covered everything. I think just to say that Ethan Wayne went on to also do stunts on Return of the Living Dead, apparently. And he spent many years as an actor on The Bold and the Beautiful. Woody Strode, I suppose, was their Donald Pleasance for this type of movie. He'd been in the Ten Commandments and Spartacus earlier in his career. And then he'd made a lot of movies in Europe, like the iconic spaghetti western Chioma. He was in The Italian Connection. And he continued to have a career in the US in mainly exploitation movies in the 70s and 80s. So he was in Kingdom of the Spiders and Vigilante, which are two movies I quite like. As you said, it was originally called Butcher, Baker, Candlestick Maker and later changed to The Outing. But there's another film came out in 1987, which is known in a lot of places as The Lamp, but also known as The Outing as well. And it was originally released over here on the VTC label, but I don't think it ever got reissued at any stage ever again, which is really surprising because it's a classic. But yeah, that's all I have. Justin.
Okay, well, thank you, Erik. Just a few bits to add. I think the release thing is the date of the release is something that needs a little bit more sort of work, because it was, although IMDb says it was released in January of 1981, I found an article with the director Byron Quisenberry from August 1981 where he's saying they're still editing the film and they were looking to release it. I also found some details of its release, a review of it being released in 1986 to screens, and someone saying how mouldy and old-fashioned it looked, and then it was from 1981. And that possibly is the reason why they changed the name from The Outing to Scream, because obviously that kind of the dates coincide with the killer genie in the lamp movie, The Outing. So that's probably why they changed it to Scream. So whether or not it actually got a release in the early 80s at cinema, I don't know. But the box office apparently says that it made over $1 million at the box office. Whether or not that's true, I don't know, but that's certainly what's listed. A few other bits. I mean, Joseph mentioned the director Byron Quisenberry, who sadly passed away 2017, was a stuntman. He was also in, as we talked about, my love of 70s disaster movies, he was man falling off scaffolding atop a skyscraper in Earthquake, in the mid-70s film. He was almost blinded, well, he was actually blinded by a football accident when he was 18, and it was a hit or miss whether or not he would ever see again, and unfortunately he did, and went on to direct Scream. But that's another story. What?
That is harsh.
Harsh.
Oh, it's a little joke. He said that he'd always wanted to do a horror movie, but then went on to contradict himself by saying he wasn't a fan of horror movies. And I imagine because he got some good reviews for a multimedia style show which he toured with an old Western actor, and I did have it written down here somewhere. I can't find it, and he got good reviews from that. So that's why he went on to make Scream. And his wife was the caterer and nurse on this movie, and then she was also in Beaches with Bette Midler, bizarrely, in a small role. So what else do I have? He said that he was more of a Hitchcock fan, and he wanted to make a kind of 10 Little Indians was the original idea, but was also admirer of John Carpenter. So I imagine Halloween and The Fog especially were instrumental in this movie. But he said he wanted to go more for like a European style film rather than a slasher movie. It's something he says. I have listened to some of the commentary, and he said that it's something he regrets. So I think he said he went a bit over the top with the kind of deliberate pacing, let's say, of the movie. The Paramount Ranch, as Joseph mentioned, burnt down, but it was where they shot things like Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, and lots of films like that. The only other thing was that when he was making it, he wasn't sure whether or not he was going to go for a PG or an R rating, which is why he said it was light on the gore. So that's, I think, may be the reason why the film, literally isn't very gory. It doesn't explain why it's not very exciting, but so I think that is everything I have on the movie. Yeah.
So overall, would you say, in my review, I said I don't know whether to give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, but overall, what would you give it, like a thumbs up or a thumbs down? Gareth, what would you say?
Oh, man. Well, I've always liked to try and remain on the positive side. And if you are a slasher enthusiast, you should see it. So I guess based on that, it's just a marginal thumbs up.
Okay. Nathan, I know you'd give it a thumbs up, obviously.
Yeah, I would. Does that mean you're all going to block me and kick me off the show?
Yeah. Blocked. I'm going to call
Erik.
You names as well. I would say, I'll probably have to say thumbs down, to be honest. I think it's watchable in small segments. I don't think it, as I said, for 81 minutes, it's a tough watch, but definitely not the worst. And as I said, it wouldn't even be in the top 10 of the worst movies we've covered. So, but still probably a thumbs down for me, I'm afraid.
Justin?
I would agree with Erik. It's probably a thumbs down for me overall. There's bits in it I like, but I think it's kind of accidental. But as Gareth said, if you're a slasher completist, then it's definitely worth watching. But just don't go in expecting an 80s style slasher movie, because it's not really that. Even though Brian Quisenberry was only 39 when he directed this, it feels much more old-fashioned. And it's almost, I'm pretty sure that he just kind of did this, a nod to what was fashionable at the time, but his heart really wasn't in it. And I don't think he really knew what he was doing with the movie. So overall, it's a thumbs down. But if you're a slasher completist, and you probably are if you're listening to this, then it's definitely worth at least one watch.
Yeah, I would probably say thumbs down, but a thumbs down that I desperately want to turn upward. So there you go.
Excellent. Well, have you got some details from people who've what other people have been saying on the forums about this movie?
Yeah, quite a bit actually. Let's see. Over on Facebook, Simon Logan. That's Simon Logan. First time watch for me, and my only option was a super low quality VHS rip with mono sound. And what a strange film this is. The premise of a group of people being stalked in a ghost town is great, but the whole thing feels very disjointed. There's so many medium wide shots with ADR dialogue. It's as if they shot everything, then went back and added in a script later. At times it felt like a 70s kung fu movie where the sound was completely separate from the visuals. Too many of the deaths were off screen or diluted by cuts, and the direction was way too sluggish to make it that enjoyable. But I do admit that the goofy incidental music had a certain charm to it, and there were also some moments of genuine suspense and drama, but that just made the fact that so much of the rest of it was so badly done even more puzzling. In the end, Scream is like a Toya video. What you were watching and what you were hearing end up colliding in a hallucinatory mess, with the overall impression being that although there are a few enjoyable aspects, overall it's a bit of a shit show.
I don't like this email.
I don't think you enjoy Simon Logan's presence on the show anymore, do you, Erik?
No.
Let's see. Lawrence Adams says it's like watching paint dry. Scott Pliskin says, I've been to the Scream Western Town, and he actually posted pictures of this. These are very interesting. It's Paramount Ranch, which recently had been used in the Westworld TV show. It's basically an open park that anyone can walk around in. Unfortunately, last November, there was a huge fire in that area, and the entire Western Town burned down. The only thing left standing was the white church HBO had built for Westworld. Travis Duvall says, I honestly enjoy this one. The dreamlike atmosphere and the unseen killer ghost make this one unusual. Plus, the POV shots of the ghost selecting his weapons are wonderfully creepy. Scott Harn says, perhaps the most baffling of the 80s slashers. It suffers from too many indistinct characters, and a lot of the film feels like it was made up on the spot. But on the whole, it does have a unique air about it that is thoroughly unusual. John Matthews says, surreal and dreamlike film, has a very offbeat atmosphere, almost feels like an Italian film that was shot in America. I guess that would kind of tie into what you were saying, Justin. A slow burn from start to finish. Always liked this one and the unexplained ghostly nature of it. It makes up for the lack of gore, in my opinion. Jenny Hall Cameron says, people spend a lot of money on sleep aids when they should just instead put this on. Yawn. You will get atmosphere before your slumber. Matt Mentor says, I put this one off for too long. I'm excited to finally watch. Rhett Miller says, I appreciate it like some really gross, bitter craft beer. It's a slog to try and get through, but when it's done, you feel like you pass some kind of rite of passage into adulthood. The ending with what were those little paper mache dolls and that nonsensical voiceover is something conceived from another realm. Good location in the ghost town that's completely wasted when they took the idea of a ghost too literally and made all the actual kill shots invisible. Makes a great, or is it terrible, double feature with an equally earnest and inept Day of Judgment, like Erik had said. Let's see. Eric Cotinas says it's a guilty pleasure. In grad school on nights I was working on my thesis, I would run films like Scream, The Outing, the other one he's talking about, Ghost Keeper, Night of the Demon, Night of Horror, oh my God, and Curse of the Screaming Dead in the background as chatter, sort of like late night studying at Denny's with less histrionics. Michael Ferrari, that's Meat, you might remember, know him as, the only slasher movie that I know of anyway, whose star was once referred to as garbage by Superman. So there you go. I said that earlier. Ara Alashan says, I'm not sure if it's the dreamlike atmosphere or Western theme, but there's something undeniably charming about this turkey. Having said that, it should probably be marketed as a remedy for insomnia, as I recall drifting away the last several times I tried to watch it. Brennan Klein says, honestly, of all the slashers I've seen, and I've seen a lot, this is my least favorite. I know there's some love for it on the show, but I was bored to tears. I wish the fact that there's a ghost cowboy improved it in any other way than on paper, but there's just so many shots panning past nothing between scenes of nothing happening. Alone in the Dark, A Century of Stalk and Slash, which is a book coming out. He asks, "Are we even allowed to cover this?" Nathan, what would you say to that?
Oh, totally. This is like right up, our alleys.
And as we all know, Nathan likes things up his alley.
Yeah.
Let's see. Mitch King says it's a movie I want to like more than I actually do. It has some great atmosphere and some likable characters. It just lacks in kills and gore and a cohesive storyline. Dave Rendon says, "I'd tell you, but I've been blocked." Yeah. Let's see. On the forums, Mr. Palmer, who hates everything, says, "It's okay, I suppose. Not a big fan of it. The nicest thing I can say, I guess, is that I prefer Scream from 1996. I would agree there, Mr. Palmer. I would agree. Tristan Comer says, "I tend to see it as a lesser version of The Final Terror." That's who it was. Okay. Only in a ghost town and not the woods. Like with The Final Terror, my favorite thing about Scream is the cinematography, and my least favorite thing is that there are way too many surviving characters. Okay, on Instagram, Some People Ain't Me says The Perfect Cure for Insomnia. The Squintle says, "Only watched it once. What little of it was even visible, I hated." Film Skunk. I like that name, Film Skunk. "It has charm. Totally dumb and bleak, but I like it." And, oh my God, do I even have to pronounce this name? I don't think so. Wrong Gagliardo says it's awful. Nothing on Twitter this week, so that's all the feedback I have.
Cool. Excellent. Well, thank you for everyone who's written in. We'll be announcing at the end of the show what pleasure for your eyeballs Nathan has up his sleeve for next time.
Very pleasurable.
I bet.
I do believe you, Justin and Eric, don't you have feedback I sent?
I do.
Yep.
Indeed.
Do you want
I don't know if I want to put it out now because mine is from Simon Logan.
Oh, and he insulted Toya.
Totally insulted Toya.
I'll tell you what. Here's an idea. Before maybe tell us your joke of the week, and maybe that'll put you in better spirits when we all laugh at your joke of the week.
Yes, because it is awesome this week.
It's my joke of the week. It's so freaking fantastic.
So the director of Scream 1981 totally stole my questionnaire about small pulpy fruits. So I told him to buy your own quiz on berries.
I love that you go for the name puns.
That's what I can do. Oh, what happened? Today, just
Well, I think. Well, it may be a mixed blessing, but there was a Skype hiccup as you were reading that, so I'm not sure if it made any sense. It might be funnier though.
Yeah, well, I can read it again. No.
It's my joke of the week. It's so freaking fantastic.
The director of this film stole my questionnaire about small pulpy fruits, so I told him to buy your own berries.
It's still Skype. You've got Skype to pick up then as well, but don't worry. I think we've got the gist of it.
Did you hear there's also a deleted scene from Scream 1981? Pepper Martin was supposed to assault the killer. Pepper Martin.
I also heard that Woody strode into that ghost town.
Actually, I liked your second joke better, Eric.
I liked your first one better.
Oh, thank you.
So,
which one was most obvious for you?
I liked Nathan's joke though. That was very clever.
No, it wasn't. Mine are better. Anyway,
well done, Nathan. Well done.
Thank you.
It just goes to show, because there's been some chatter on, there's a new private group set up by the lovely Gore Blimey from the Trilogy of Terror podcast, who for horror podcasters to chat, and we were talking about editing, and some people spend up to 8 hours editing an episode, and I spend up to 8 minutes. So those Skype hiccups are staying in, Eric.
That's okay.
Yeah. A lot of people, are very picky about their editing and, trying to get all the ums and uhs out and all the dead space. But, like I was telling the guys earlier in the week, I think, all the sky pickups, all the kind of talking over one another and kind of laughing, it kind of lends itself to sort of the lo-fi, slasher movies of the 80s. So I think that's why we just don't really edit that much. Wouldn't you agree, Justin?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And also because life's too short. I think it's for some people who are doing slightly more serious or slightly kind of, not saying that we don't take things seriously sometimes, but then I can understand why you would want to do that perhaps. So I've just got someone at the door talking of...
So I've got some feedback here from Simon Logan. And he started saying, Simon Logan. So he starts by saying, I was watching Axum the other day and it reminded me of Susie and the Banshees records because it was so rubbish.
We know that's not true, Erik, don't we?
No, it's true. That's what it says here.
No.
Just to let you guys know, Erik is lying.
I never lie. He says, hey guys, great to see the amount of effort and energy you're putting into the podcast. That's ironic after what we just said. Editing. It's as strong as ever with the renewed social networking presence and a plethora of great episodes already in 2019. It's also great to have Amanda Reyes making so many appearances lately. She's always a welcome addition to the discussion, although doesn't she realize the only research she needs to do prior to the show is to quickly check Wikipedia and IMDb? That's shade. Is that shade? I think it's shade.
That might be a bit shade.
Simon Logan's been very mean this week. I have a quick question for you, and that is that I'm curious as to how your various partners feel about the love you have for slasher movies. Over the years, we've heard many a mention of Wes, Stuart, and others, but I always got the impression that whilst they often joined in your watching of these movies, none of them were as obsessed as we know you all are. Since you obviously watch and have watched many a slasher movie, do you tend to do this on your own or with semi-reluctant partners? And what do they all think of your obsession with the genre, since it seems to play a large part in your lives, particularly that of Justin? Just curious. Simon, full stop, Logan. Well, my other half has no interest in slasher movies.
Do you ever watch slasher movies with your other half?
We went to see My Bloody Valentine 3D together, and we went to see Friday the 13th Part 3 together in the cinema last year, and his reaction to Friday the 13th Part 3 was, well, that's 90 minutes of my life I'm never getting back. But he did kind of enjoy My Bloody Valentine 3D. But I tend to watch all my slasher movies on my own. So, yeah, because his cup of tea is sort of The Greatest Showman, and then Doris Day movies, and what's her face, the one you're obsessed with, Justin, Mommy Dearest. What's her name again?
Joan Crawford.
Yeah, he loves Joan Crawford movies and old Miss Marple movies and stuff like that. So
you watch those with him?
No.
Okay.
No.
There we go. See, for me, Wes doesn't really like them. Like, if I try to show him any slashers, I tried to show him Hell Night, and he thought it was the most boring thing in the world. So I was like, well, you don't have the taste for it, obviously.
What's his movie of choice then? What's he like?
Wes is a sci-fi kind of guy. He loves, like, he likes Star Wars. He also likes fantasy. Like, he likes Harry Potter a lot. Just that kind of stuff. But if I ever try to show him a slasher, now once in a blue moon he will like one. He liked Terror Train and he liked House on Sorority Row. But those are probably the only two I could think of. Well, he loved all the 3 Sleepaway Camp movies that I've shown him. He liked all 3 of those. But other than that, he's just not a big fan of slashers. He doesn't really get it. And he always, just says, well, if you want to watch one, then you can. I'll go in the bedroom and watch what I want to watch. So that's how it goes.
Yeah, same for me, probably. Justin?
Well, Stuart, he feels like he saw them all the first time around when we watched them. He doesn't need to see them again, basically. But he adores Sleepaway Camp for some reason. But he doesn't. We don't tend to watch new ones with me. So, like, if it was horror movies, he enjoys horror movies and we watch them. But he's not. Whenever I'm watching something, he usually in another room he always goes, "My God, that sounded awful." So yeah.
He don't ever say that when you're watching one of my picks, does he?
No. What do you mean? Oh, sorry, if you meant like the one of your films you made, like the Confederate Massacre.
No, I meant like one of the movies that I choose for the podcast, like Crazy Fat Ethel and
There's
stuff.
no way in hell I'd ever get him to watch one of your movies. He just wouldn't do it.
You know, Wes won't watch them with me either. I tried to get him to watch Crinoline Head, and after like the first 10 minutes, he was done. And I'm like, well, fine.
Oh,
I want to watch quality cinema.
So that was
Gareth, what about you? Does your girlfriend enjoy watching slasher movies?
No, she doesn't like them at all. So I'm a lone watcher. I did make her watch Halloween. The interesting thing about her is she has a maths degree, so she likes everything to be definitive and conclusive. She likes what she classes proper endings. So Halloween, she was all right with it, watching it. Okay, some guy walking around killing people, but then obviously the end when Dr. Loomis looks over the balcony and sees that Michael Myers is gone. She just turned to me and just went, "Well, that was shit." She goes, "What? So what's that mean? What does that mean? So he's not. He just got shot 6 times and he's not dead. Oh, that was rubbish." So that was a great reaction. She just hated the fact that it now meant that he was like, supernatural. So she doesn't like.
You should show her part 2 because it's continuation, and then with the big explosion at the end, she might kind of get that ending.
Yeah, she might get closure.
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, the first thing she said to me was, she goes, "And how many of these movies did they make? Like 12?" And I was like, "Well, they made a few more." She goes, "So he's still out there then, and he's not dead?" She goes, "Well, how does he not die? It's so stupid, just some guy walking around with a knife, and he never dies. What's the point?" And I was like, "Yeah."
It's hard to explain it to somebody that doesn't get it.
Yeah.
Like,
Did you say she had a math degree?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have a degree in math as well, but I don't care if everything is definitive or conclusive most of the time.
No, she really struggles with it. She in films in general, not just horror, but we know that obviously horror sometimes like to be ambiguous and they love to leave the ending open for a sequel. She does not like that. She likes it to be a closed book. So any horror movie that we do happen to watch, if it does have a definitive ending and the good guys win or whatever, she's like, okay, fine, I can handle that. But anything that doesn't, that leaves it open or is a bit, open to interpretation, she's like, nah, not for me.
Does she hate when the bad guys win?
I don't think she's that fussed either way, as long as, if like the hero gets killed at the end and the bad guy walks off into the sunset or whatever, that she would be okay with that. I just don't think she likes it when the audience are left to make their own minds up.
Okay.
What do you make of Scream 1981's ending then?
Oh, I do, yeah. That would just, finish her off. Who were?
Joseph, we haven't gone to you yet.
Oh, well, I'm currently partnerless at the moment. Yes. However, it's been my experience that any girlfriend I've ever had either tolerated them or they didn't like them at all. I've only had like one girlfriend who's actually enjoyed them as much as I do, and she was a little crazy. So take that from what you will.
Well, do write in and let us know what your partner thinks of your viewing habits as well. And we'll read them out on the show.
Although I do remember, just as an aside, getting Arrow's Blu-ray of Don't Torture a Duckling in the post, and my other half saw what I just received in the post and just thought it was the most obscene-sounding film ever. Which is, I suppose...
But it does sound obscene, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
See, Wes saw that title, Don't Torture a Duckling, and he was like, he's like, what is that? That sounds stupid. Anytime I give him a Giallo title, he thinks it sounds dumb, but I'm like, no, you don't get it. Giallos have the best titles. Like, that's what you're not understanding here.
It is.
Yes. So did Simon Logan go on to talk about how wonderful Susie is and how dreadful Toya is?
He said he compared Susie to Axum. So
yes, I don't believe that.
No, that's it.
Okay.
Oh, Justin.
Okay, well, thank you, Simon. And I have a relatively long one here. It says, "Hello again, my dudes. You may remember me from a few months ago as the guy who recommended you do Bloodbeat, as well as profess my love for the all-time classic Bloodhook." So it's one of yours, Nathan, one of your friends. Well, last night I watched Blood Lake for the first time, and I've got to say it was hecking amazing. This is you, Nathan, isn't it? Let me check who
it is. Nathan.
It must be me under a pseudonym or something.
I'll tell you who it is in a minute when we get to the bottom. But the music was outstanding, the kid was hilarious, and this will go down in history as one of the greatest openings to any movie ever. Are you all... spelt Y''ALL, so it is Nathan, looking forward to the new DVD in April that claims to have a new transfer. So I'll take that across to Nathan. Are you excited?
I'm very excited. And Justin, it's not you all, it's y'all.
Y'all, sorry. Okay.
Y'all.
Right. Speaking of SOV slashers, when are you going to talk about the violent shit movies? They are absolute classics. I imagine that's in inverted commas. And I will say, without a hint of irony, that Violent Shit 2 is one of my all-time favourite movies. I don't think I've ever seen any of the Violent Shit movies. Has anyone?
The shit in the title is apt. Those movies are fucking awful.
I mean, I've seen both Violent Feces movies, and I feel like...
There's 3 of them, actually.
Well, I've only seen the first 2, and I felt like when I watched them, they were terrible, but I was still trying to see the good in them. But it's been a long time, and I don't remember much about them, except that I think I thought the second one was better than the first. I think I remember that. But otherwise, I don't know. Like, I probably won't pick them just because the title's a little obscene, and I would rather pick, stuff with, I guess happier titles like Slumber Party Massacre.
So, yeah, that's so happy.
So you would never cover a movie that had the brown word in the title?
Well, I mean, I would, but I would probably just say Violent S or something like that. Here's the thing. It's not like I never cuss. I do, but I don't know. I don't usually deliberately do it. If I cuss, it's like it's more of a natural thing, and so I guess that's my thing. I don't know. I'm weird. What can I say?
Okay. Gareth, have you seen any of the Violent Shit movies?
I have not had the pleasure.
No, you and me alike. So, okay, well, we'll see who's written this in a minute. So it's obviously, we thought it was a Nathan Nondeplume, but given talk of Violent Shit, it clearly isn't. So it goes on to say, one more question for you. What's y'all's opinion on the term "so bad it's good"? I've never really liked the phrase myself. To me, a movie is either good or bad. It seems to be used by people who don't want to fully commit to liking something that might not have mass appeal, like Blood Lake, for example. I like it, therefore it's a good movie to me. Heck, other people's opinions, man. People need to like what they like and not be ashamed of it. And he says, well, that's enough questions and soapboxing for now. Talk to you all later and stay beautiful. That's from Alex Borenstein. So
Alex.
So yes, it's what is your take on the term "so bad it's good"?
I would say let's not call a spade here. Bad is bad, and a lot of these movies are bad, but I think that's why they're memorable, because they transcend just pure awfulness into something watchable. So I like that term, actually.
I kind of agree with Joseph. I think I like the term "so bad it's good" because if I'm looking at a movie like, Don't Go in the Woods, I mean, I can look at it and say, I love the film, but I love it because it's so bad. Like, that's my reason for loving it. I don't think that, obviously the script and all that is not the greatest, and I can see that, but that's just part of the charm. So I kind of like "so bad it's good" only because, to me, I can love bad movies. I have a love for them. I love my trash cinema.
It is. It's a useful tool for saying, describing films like Scream 1981, which is almost so bad it's good, but not quite. But I mean, it's a phrase I use a lot, and I don't mean it to be demeaning as well. But it's sort of, because there are two sort of types of movies I like. Ones that are genuinely good, like Alien and Halloween and Exorcist and all that, and then there's ones that are so bad they're good. Something like Pieces, I suppose you could use that term for. It's a great movie, but it's so bad it's good.
Well, thank you, Eric. What about you, Gareth? Are you a fan of that term?
Yeah, I've used it far too often to turn around now and say that it's not a good phrase. It's one of my go-to phrases. Exactly what Eric just said. I mean, something like Pieces could never hold up, when you compare it to something like Alien, but it's still great. I love it. So what am I saying? It's a good film? Well, no, you can kind of tell it's not a good film. But yeah, it's so bad it's good.
Yeah, I think that's kind of fair. I mean, also there's films that are good films. I mentioned before the biggest crime a film can be is boring, isn't it? So you can get a good film that you can like a classic movie or something or a critical film that's a critical darling, which would be a good film. It may not be particularly interesting or fun, but then of course you can get a movie. Sorry,
Fella Day.
Oh, Eric.
Oh,
but no,
God, that trash. Yeah.
Fella Day's a fantastic movie. But see, that it's a divided opinion, but it's not so bad. It's good.
Day?
Yeah, I think it is Opposite Day.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's really so bad it's good is a kind of celebration of film that is bad, but you enjoy it, as Nathan said, because it is bad. There are bad horror movies out there which aren't particularly entertaining. You could look at a lot of like 90s sort of, horror movies, a lot of them not particularly good. Some of there's sort of things like, do you want to know a secret? Films like that I remember being just so, kind of bland that they're not so bad, they're good, they're just kind of boring.
Yeah.
I think another term...
It's a pretty bland movie.
Yeah, I think another term that you could substitute for so bad it's good would be it's a bad film, but it's a good movie.
Yeah, I mean, I can see like the merit in that too. Hey, Straps. But I just thought of a great top 3. We should do like our top 3, like so bad it's good, like horror movies in general.
Okay.
We can do that next because I still don't have a top 3 idea actually. So,
what'd you say, Eric?
Have we not done something similar to that before? I don't do it again. I don't know. It just sounds like something we would have done. No,
I don't think so.
We've done the 3 so bad it's. I know we've done like funny dialogue scenes and stuff. And if we have time when we do this, I think it would be kind of fun to do like just a little bit of dialogue from the movie, just why we think it's so bad it's good. That may not be a bad idea.
It might be a good idea. It's so bad. I don't know.
So bad it's good.
My idea is so bad it's actually kind of good.
Well, that sounds good. So look where you started, Alex. Anyway, so well, thank you for everyone's written in. This is how to get in contact with the show. Sorry, that's Martina in the background jingling. So this is how to get in contact with the show.
Thank you for listening to The Hysteria Continues. Be sure to search for us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you enjoy our show, consider becoming a Patreon subscriber. That's patreon.com/The Hysteria Continues. You can email us at thehysteriacontinues@gmail.com.
That was the latest version, wasn't it, Joseph?
I don't even know anymore. It works, so whatever.
It works. Yeah. So if you can hear some rustling around, it's Martino's. He's got into a cupboard and he's trying to get hold of some biscuits.
But our 7 hours of editing will remove that. So
yes, all the editing you do.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Hey, Justin, tell Martino that Stripe says hello.
So he's. Can you? Oh, hold on. So I've got it. He's actually got up onto the biscuits. Hold on. Talk amongst yourselves.
No, he's got to go wrestle the biscuits away.
And all this will stay in the podcast.
Yeah, I like that this stuff remains in the show. I think it gives it a quirk.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's funny.
I think it shows we have a level of vulnerability.
We're like 4 Laurie Strodes.
We are. We have a tough exterior. But we have an inner vulnerability of cats getting into biscuits.
But indeed. Well, I just got back. It was on the top shelf, this big bag of biscuits, but he's hanging upside down like a fruit bat, and he had his teeth in them. So, So anyway.
Is he the cat that woke you up the other night, Justin?
Yes. Well, several of them. It's him and Catherine of Aragon.
So I love the names you give your cats.
Yeah, well, she's Spanish Queen.
Anne Boleyn. Catherine of Aragon.
Well, we got Catherine of Aragon, Bloody Mary, but she haven't seen her for a little while. Lon Chaney Jr. But yeah, they're street cats, many of them, so they're not actually our cats.
Justin, I kind of get the impression that you're an animal lover.
Yes, a little bit. But anyway, we better wrap this up because we are well over 2 hours now. So
and we still got to do another one.
Yes, I know. But now, Gareth, thank you ever so much for being on the show. Was it everything you dreamed?
It was. I had a great time. Thank you for inviting me.
No, we did. Well, hopefully you'll come back again in the not too distant future because, it's been great having you. And thank you for running a fantastic Facebook group.
Thank you very much.
Group again is Slasher Trash.
Slasher Trash, yes.
Yay.
So, is there anything else you want to promote? Are you've got any other plans? Anything up your sleeve?
I am going to start a YouTube channel, but it's become a bit of a running joke now because I mentioned it months ago, ran into technical difficulties. It will happen. It's just the whole thing about, do I have time to do this? But I will do it. And it's just going to be like little reviews and stuff, obviously with a humorous edge, hopefully. So
cool.
Look forward to that coming soon, 2022 maybe.
like my new book. Well, fantastic having you on the show, Gareth, and we'll keep an eye out for that. So, Nathan, what are we going to be treated to next time?
Well, next time we're going to go to the desert and engage in a blood frenzy.
Oh, yes. So, and we're hoping to have another very extra special guest. Ewan from Arrow Video is going to be with us to discuss Blood Frenzy. So, as long as everything goes according to plan. So, looking forward to that and hopefully some rather exciting developments or some interesting things around that film as well. So, what are we playing out with, Joseph?
This is Ghost Town by The Specials.
Oh,
perfect.
Tune.
Perfect. Excellent. So, in time-honored tradition, say goodbye to the good people.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bob, do you think we could record the Scream episode just a little bit?